Okay, purpose of this video is to give you a demonstration of the website build number one from spring term 2020. And what I want you to be able to do is to use Excel to demonstrate why the t-distribution is needed and was invented by Gossett in the early 1900s, so relatively recent in terms of mathematics, um, but at the time was critical to the success of the Guinness Brewing Company, um, and so much so that when he went to publish it, the t-distribution tables and the mathematics behind it, Guinness told them not to because it was a competitive advantage. He was able to convince them that if he published it under an anonymous name in mathematical journals for the good of mathematics and public policy, that the competitors in their industry would not um, read about it, or if they did, they still wouldn't be able to understand it and apply it to the industry the way he is. So they let him do it anonymously, and so he published his t-distribution tables and the explanations under the name student, and it's called the t-distribution because the word student ends in t, as does his true last name, which is Gossett. So it's a t-distribution. So let's go ahead and look and see what we've got in terms of an Excel spreadsheet. So I was interested in wondering what the base salaries of Major League Soccer players are, and I Googled it and came up on Kaggle, had a data set from the year 2017, relatively recent, and it included the base salary along with the club, the player's last name, first name, and the player position. And you can see this over here on the left on my spreadsheet. And I added the column random number as part of my random selection process. Um, your database should contain at least 500 records. Mine contains 616 players. That is evidenced by counting, uh, having him count the rows in the data set. And then I also had it come up with the population parameters by doing average of the population and the standard deviation population, which is dot p. Um, the goal here is to select is to look and see the impact of we've learned about the z distribution in the end of the winter term with proportions, and now we're dealing with quantitative variables, and we're dealing with small sample sizes. So we'd like to look and see the impact of Gossett and his t distribution um, for helping us more accurately reflect an interval that captures the true confidence level. So you can see on the earlier on in the first one, I went ahead and calculated the sample mean from a sample size of 15, and then let's go through the formulas here. Uh, Calculate the mean from the first 15 after I've sorted by the random numbers. And the z critical value is calculated by taking the confidence interval, 0.99, and then adding half of the difference between 1 and that interval um, to the 0.99. So this would be finding the z critical value that would capture at 0.997 um, at the 99%, I'm sorry, 0.995 at the Z critical value, which is 2.576. And if you use your calculator, you'll find that that is true critical value for a 99% confidence interval. The Z critical value is 2.576. The T critical value, however, has to take into account the degrees of freedom, and that's why in the formula it says T dot inverse does the same thing in terms of calculating the area to the left, but now I need to calculate the degrees of freedom, so I took my sample minus 1. And if you use your calculator at a 14 degrees of freedom, 99% confidence interval, you'd find that 2.977 is the value. Okay, so let's go ahead and use these values to calculate the minimum of our intervals. And so in the z world, we would say, hey, look, let me take my sample mean and subtract my margin of error, which consists of my z critical value, which I have in L4, and the sample standard deviation of E2 to E16 of those 15, and I take the square root of my sample size, which is a little bit over 4. And so this will give me the minimum value, and I do it again, but now if we get the maximum value, I'm going to add my margin of error, and then I go back and do the same thing on my t interval, where I'm going to again subtract from the mean the margin of error calculated here, and then go ahead and do the same thing, but now add the margin of error from my spreadsheet. Now, here's something that's interesting. One, I just go ahead and copy the sample mean from L3. Could do it from L3 or M3. Just copied it here. It'll make it easier for me to copy and paste later on. But one of the interesting formulas that I've discovered was this if and what that says is that if you have multiple criteria that you have to have Excel measure against, then it can do it using the if and format. And so if you look here, it's if and I take the value that's in I5, which is my population um, mean base salary, and I look to make sure that it is greater than my minimum in the z distribution and less than my maximum. And if it is, then I say into the cell, write the word caught, and notice the parentheses around there, or the quotation marks, sorry. And if it isn't between those two values, and including, then it's the false narrative, and so therefore I say put in the word fail. Okay. Then the next step is to capture this set of samples and the results, and to copy these and place them into this table of the sample mean. Did the z confidence interval catch it, and did the t confidence interval catch it? So when I record this, when I record the macro, I copy it to the second row of the table that I want to have this analyze. And that's because if I insert in the top of the table, then it messes up all the formulas. So you want to insert it on the second row of the table, so so that your formulas here in the count and success remain the same. Now, something else I did here, which is a little bit different than what you've probably seen, is I named the range z samples. And to do that, you go to formulas, and you'd go to define the name, and then you would put where that z formula is. So for me, it would be from P2 down to I just did to P1000. And so if you look under name manager under z samples, you can see my formula is from P2 all the way to P1037, which is fine because there's nothing down there, so that doesn't matter. Okay. That being said, I did the same. I created a new one called T samples as well under the Q, and you can see that it starts at Q2. So as I add data rows, this keeps getting bigger and bigger, but I'm just including it, so that's fine. Okay. So what my macro looks like is under Control S. You remember if you go to the developer, and then you could do your record macro, which will calculate each step, and I'll go through my steps here, but I'll just show you what the end result is, and then we can go through each of the steps. So the first thing I did, just as the macro, is to go ahead and do Control S, and then you can see that I've got copied my new sample result and put it into my sampling distribution, and so I can do this just a bunch of times. And then I go through and I look at my results, and I can see even within that small amount of time here, I've got a difference between whether the Z captures it or the T distribution captures it. So this gives you a good idea. And again, I don't have a large number of samples, but you can see I'm up in the 90s, and there's a little bit of a difference between the two. And the T distribution is more is closer to the 99% confidence interval than the Z distribution, which is why it's important. Let me just take you through the macro and just kind of make sure that you kind of get the steps of what's going to happen if you've built this correctly. So the first thing I would do is I would go to this the second row on my table here, and I would right mouse click and do an insert and then shift the cells down. I'm not going to do that now. When I do that, because I have my formula, I've left my formula on automatic. If you remember this, on calculate option, I've left it on automatic. When it inserts those empty cells, it also recalculates your random numbers. So therefore, all I have to do is highlight inside of my table. And notice I've left G here blank on purpose, so that when I do a sort, my data sort, it only sorts the table that my cursor's in. And I say, okay, sort smallest to largest of my random numbers. And now I've got 15 new ones, but again, it doesn't look like it's sorted because I have the automatic on. So it doesn't look like it's truly sorted, but it actually is. And if you want, we could do one more sort, and you'll see the names change. And see how the names change, and as does the sample mean. The sample means change. This stays the same. Your confidence interval minimum maximums change, and in both cases, the 296 was caught in the interval. This table here, where it's showing the difference, is capturing it. And if you look, I say count if under the range Z samples, if it see the word caught, and then here just count how many words are in Z samples, and that's why count A. So it's not blank in the table Z samples, and then I just use a formula to calculate the percentage. Okay, same thing here, except for now I'm using T samples and T samples and count A, and then I'm just calculating the percentage. So this would be a good visual demonstration of why Gossett's contribution of creating the T distribution tables is important for us in statistics, particularly when we are taking relatively small samples, and for our purpose, that's sample sizes that are less than 30. Okay, there's other things that go along with that, but this is just a pretty good picture. So my hope for you is that you're able to create a similar picture, but you're going to have a data set that might be a little bit more interesting to you than maybe Major League Soccer based salaries. All right, so I hope you have fun with that and looking through, and good luck.